What is up, guys? It is Travis, Handy Dandy Dalton, doing another YouTube video. Thanks so much for joining me. This one is about organization, note taking, business journal, pretty much all summed up into one, and how I do it. I've actually received quite a few questions, and I thought I would answer that in a video. That way it can be referred to, and hopefully it can help somebody out. Now, a caveat for this is I know there are people out there that are already established that have different ways of recording their notes for estimates or their notes for their daily business journal, things like that. And I do know a lot of people use their phone in conjunction with a computer, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. If you are someone who needs or wants or likes to use your phone or a computer all the time for that, more power to you. I tried that in the beginning as well. It did not work for me. I am an analog style person when it comes to note taking. I remember better, and when I have it written down or I write it down, and I find I include more details when I write stuff down as opposed to on the phone. Now, I do use my phone to take pictures in conjunction with doing estimates, but for my calendar and for just estimate notes and things like that, I use a business journal and a daily log. Now, for me, the style that I use is called a bullet journal. It's essentially a way of recording information. And for me personally, I have found that that has been the best method to take notes for daily stuff. So I would highly recommend Googling bullet journal and how to set it up. Now, I am also going to do another video on specifically setting up a new bullet journal for business, because when I Google that, specifically for like HandyMan or Contractor, I don't see really any info on it. And I've been doing this for, a long time. And now that I've been using the bullet journal method, I feel like I've ironed out some wrinkles for myself. But there will be a video coming specifically with setting up a new bullet journal. Enough talking about that. I will start my evolution on my business note taking. The very first step that I had was this here, just a legal pad that, I picked up a pack of 6 or 10 or whatever, and I just used this to set everything up. I mean, my life revolved around this and my phone. And what I would do with this is, I would put, the date, whatever, and just notes for the day. If John called me, John Smith called, I would just, have that, my to-do lists, call and set appointment for John, just things of that nature, and then I would just continue to do it, and then the next day, etc. The problem I personally had with this was the pages tear relatively easy, especially when you are, constantly having to go to a new page. It wasn't a very good system. I actually started losing pages. I would have this on my business clipboard. I have the aluminum, compartment style clipboard that I use for everything, and this was okay to begin with, but I found myself very quickly graduating beyond this. At this time, I was still using my phone heavily and for appointments and calendar and things like that. So having it in two places, wasn't ideal. So very quickly, I probably have a couple dozen of these in various states of disrepair, and it just wasn't very good. So the next one that I moved on to was a different style, but still a legal pad type thing. It was more of a purpose one where you would have the big notes over here, and I would usually put, a client's name and, address, West 1st Street, and, their phone number, 2555, whatever, 1234. And then I would do the estimate here, my notes for the estimate. For this particular one, it was a lot of stuff. And then, I highlighted the things I wanted to do immediately. I ended up doing quite a few other things. These are just blocking out the customer's info. This is a legit, real note that I took. Now, I still took pictures with this. So I would get to the client's house, and like this one here, demo hallway, I made sure I took 4 or 5 pictures of the hallway at different angles. And this is just an estimate. So, some of them I did include length. The hallway, I just knew that it was about a 15-foot long hallway. Things like that. Your notes are personal, and it can be as rough or detailed as you want. And certain things I did get pretty detailed in. Other things, it was pretty self-explanatory. Now, this worked for probably a year-ish, and I was again using it in conjunction with my phone, but I didn't like that, and I didn't like how, you can see the pages again. In a working environment, a living document, stuff just gets torn. I then moved to having a business journal in conjunction with this. So now I had my phone, my business journal, and my notes, all in different places. And I started doing stuff like listing client's name in the back so I could have an analog of that. My calendar, I started keeping my calendar instead of in my phone in an analog section with the days and stuff like that. That I enjoyed that. And I started keeping my business journal here, things written down here. So again, with the bullet journal style, you can have a different spread on each page. Like here, lessons that I've learned on different jobs, and then just different notes here. These are more lessons learned, or just maybe I had a client or a job, or I learned something from a contractor or a business associate that I thought it was worth writing down. And so this also became a spot where I just started writing down information. Again, just keeping different notes through the day. Now, the problem with this was now I have 3 places. Well, yeah, 3. My phone, here, and the business journal. And it was very difficult for me to kind of consolidate everything into one spot. Like, man, what did I write that on? Did I not have my business journal that day? Did I write it on a different spot? Did I write it in here? Did I write it on here? Is it logged on my phone? I know there's a lot of people out there probably chuckling and like thinking, oh man, you just keep it on your phone, no big deal. But like I stated earlier, that just doesn't work for me. A friend of mine, he's very successful with keeping everything on his phone. I'm not. I find that I take very, very shorthand notes on my phone, and I like to, if I was on the phone, it would probably be a third of this. And so when I was doing the estimate at home, writing it out, I may have missed something that I would have quickly jotted down. Anyway, this didn't work for me. So I graduated from this as well and evolved from this. What I did was I decided to, after talking to a contractor friend of mine, I decided to buy a cheap composition book to try out for a month. So I purchased this last month, and I was going to give it 1 month. Everything goes into here. Calendar, contacts, information, quick jots. Someone calls me, it goes in here. Now, this book can fold in half and easily be put on a clipboard. And that way you have the benefit of the legal pad and the benefit of the business journal. So we'll just take a look at a couple days. Different notes, finalized door deal with AH, which is a friend of mine, and schedule for Monday. Schedule with Mitch for Friday noonish. These are to-do lists that I had to do. And I would get calls, phone numbers and addresses from calls, scheduling, the address and phone numbers here, and that's the time. And then the thing I would do is I set up a calendar over here, and I would schedule stuff out in one spot. And then the other benefit is a bullet journal. You're able to do spreads, meaning you can go to the next page and start doing more notes. So, I have a podcast that I work on, and I can do, a basic script, doodles and stuff like that, a script for another podcast. This is an estimate, like on the previous thing that I showed you, the legal pad. This is the rough notes for that. on this one, I decided after I got home that I was going to pass on the job. It's something I decided to do. It's nice to look back on that and say, okay, well, I passed on that. Um, and more notes. These are to-do lists. Work on the ebook, record podcast, make question list for a friend of mine, Paul. Type up a rough script for podcast, and then just things like that. And then more scheduling. Just cover this section up quickly. It's not such an expensive book that I don't mind my niece, when I see her and she's hanging out, to scribble some pictures on. I can sit there and I have hundreds of more pages, so it doesn't really matter that we do that. Yeah, everything in one spot. And this has been my current iteration. The month has passed, and I'm going to actually stick with this style notebook. I'm going to get a nicer one with thicker pages. These are actually pretty thick, but I want the college ruled with the really thick 100-pound or 120-pound paper, because I like to use markers a lot, Sharpies and stuff like that. So this is my current system. So just a quick video for new people into the business on what worked for me back in the day and what I'm currently on. I would suggest highly skipping all of the other stuff. Get yourself a nice aluminum Contractor clipboard. Get yourself a composition book. Google how to establish a bullet journal and go that route. Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. Like, subscribe. It does help out the channel. I am trying to get this channel off the ground, so I will be posting more videos. If you'd use a different system, amazing. I'm very happy for you, and I'm glad, and I hope it works for you as well as this system works for me.